I have a feeling you might be wondering, how do we get our fiction moving, Ro? Well, that's great, because that's exactly what I'm going to show you now. We're going to start with the type of game you might see on Sesame Street or in a kindergarten class. You can handle that. Spot the difference between these two groups of sentences. Jenny poured the kibble into the bowl and set the dish on the floor for Chance. Maximilian took off his cap. Kylie bonked her head on the doorframe. Ouch. Okay, that was group 1. Now let's take a look at group 2. The moose is on the loose. In April, violets covered the field from the tree line all the way down to the brook. Denny felt terrible about the way he'd spoken to Clara. Now's the part where you take a few seconds to figure out if you can spot the difference before Ro tells you. Now's the part where Ro tells you. If you had grammar lessons in school, you might have been taught the difference between an action verb and a linking verb. And they might even have taught you that an action verb conveys action, go figure, and that a linking verb conveys a feeling or a state of being, like feeling bad or being on the loose. What they probably didn't mention about the important distinction between action verbs and linking verbs is that one of these categories of verbs makes fiction go. Do you know which one? I'll bet you do. That's right, they're your friends, the action verbs. Now you might think I'm being patronizing or taking you too deep into the weeds. Pedantic narrative geek that I am, and Ro is nothing if not that. But this is a very important distinction to know as a writer, and here's why. Let's take a closer look at that very first sentence again. Jenny poured the kibble into the bowl and set the dish on the floor for Chance. There are two distinct actions going on here, but there's something else critical about this to notice as well. Movement has happened. The kibble from the implied container into the bowl, then also the bowl moving from an implied height down to the floor. In order for your brain to process these actions, it has to generate a temporal sequence in your mental simulation. Time has moved forward from one moment when the kibble was in the bag to another moment when the previously empty bowl now has food in it. And that full bowl, which was on the counter at the beginning of the sentence, is now on the floor. Time has moved forward. Action verbs are the figurative play button for your cognitive simulation. Want to hit play in your story? Add some action verbs. This is how we get a story moving, and we must have movement in a story world to have a story at all. What about that other kind of verb, those pesky linking verbs? What are they good for, Ro? All I want is action. Well, slow down there for a minute, soldier. Linking verbs are useful too. Consider this sentence. In April, violets covered the field from the tree line all the way down to the brook. What a pretty image. Boy, that's a world I wouldn't mind spending a minute observing and dwelling in for a while. Remember that just as a story needs the passage of time for it to be a story, it also needs a space for the story to unfold in. Linking verbs are great to describe both the space in the story world and the character's states of being or motivations, as in the last sentence from that group. Denny felt terrible about the way he'd spoken to Clara. Here, the reader is presented with information about how Denny feels, his state of being. And there's no specific temporal sequence here the way there would be if the sentence read, Denny told Clara she was an imbecile. Instead, the reader just knows Denny was experiencing a bad feeling about the way he'd spoken to Clara, and he should, that meanie. And the state of being exists over an unspecified and unmoving period of time. Here, the cognitive simulation isn't progressing, it's standing still. Linking verbs are a writer's pause button. In contrast to a page of writing with a lot of action verbs, and therefore a fast-flowing cognitive simulation, a passage with a lot of linking verbs will slow your reader down, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Stylistically, you might decide that it's important for your fiction to create vivid spaces for your characters to play in. Maybe that's what you love best about fiction. And amen. I've read some stunning pieces of writing that slowed things down and took me on a pleasant, meandering walk through dark green fields covered in violets, to a murmuring brook with silver fish floating over delightfully hued amber stones. You're going to need a few linking verbs to do that in your writing. Being aware of the difference, though, is a great feather to have in your cap. Am I pressing play or holding pause? A final thing to say about linking verbs is that there are far fewer linking verbs than action verbs. You may even find it helpful if you are a newer writer to have a list of linking verbs handy if you're describing a place, an object, or a character's looks or feelings. You can easily find some good lists of linking verbs online. Remember, our focus is plot in the next few lessons, so as much as we're going to need those linking verbs, especially when we start talking about space, the subject for now is on how to get our fiction moving, how to create a temporal sequence in the simulation of our story world. That means action. That means action verbs. That's how we get our story moving, and there are a lot of ways to make that happen, which we'll explore in the next lesson. That wasn't so hard, was it? Who knew grammar could be so easy and useful to a writer? Go figure.